What is the biggest culture shock you have ever faced? Part 1.
I married to a Maharashtrian guy about a year ago. It was a love marriage. We had been dating since 1.5 years. As a girl from Uttar Pradesh, Mathura, I know the amount of dowry we give to the groom. When my sister was married, we gifted the groom a Maruti Suzuki Swift Desire, though they had not demanded it. We also gave them cash of Indian rupee 5,000,000 in dowry. This is not because the groom's family members demand those things, but it's in our blood to gift that to him. Many enough say that if a girl doesn't take anything to her husband's home, it's a shame to her. All the neighbors shame on her. People tend to believe that there is some problem with guy and so he couldn't fetch enough dowry. Having said this, as I broke the news of my boyfriend, my family members first were a bit concerned about boy's background. As I come from an upper class, they thought it would be a shame for me to marry a lower class/caste. But fortunately he turned out to be from upper class in Maharashtra, and this gave relief to my parents. So they agreed for our marriage. The next thing that came to our mind was dowry. We sat for whole night just to discuss what we should gift the boy. My several uncles and aunts participated in this discussion. Finally, we decided to personally speak with boy's parents if they have any demand concerning this. In the meantime, my boyfriend too broke the news to his parents. Though they initially refused to marry him off to a up girl, he eventually convinced them, and we decided to arrange meeting of both families a week later in my home. Then came the D-Day. Boy's parents and one of his aunts and uncles showed up in our house. Looking at me, they were very happy as I was very well dressed up. After some basic discussions came the point of dowry. Everyone from boy's family members refused it. I thought it is casual Indian thing to initially refuse the offerings. They said my parents to just give their daughter to their son with a Mangal Sutra, a sacred necklace they signifies marriage bond, and a coconut. Usually Mangal Sutra is made of gold, but they said that if we cannot afford that, a Mangal Sutra made up of black beads may work, but they would never accept anything in dowry. They warned us to not even to try to offer it. Otherwise, they would break the marriage. This literally shocked us. We tried to explain them our culture of dowry, but they were stuck to their principles. Even my boyfriend warned me to not to try ways to present dowry. Finally, we had to agree. My family members were first furious over their arrogance over this matter. Many of my uncles and aunts said that there is some defect with the groom, and so they behaved like this. Everyone was thinking of what my to-be neighbors and family members would say about me for not bringing dowry. But as we were committed, we eventually got married off without any exchange of dowry, though my parents gave around 50 grams gold on Mangal Sutra. After I came to my husband's home, it was a cultural shock for me to notice that no one asked what I brought from my home. In fact, after I discussed with neighbors about what they got from their homes, I got to know that there was only exchange of Mangal Sutra from girl's home. Plus some got costly saris or some jewelries from home. But I noticed a thing, that whatever they got from their homes was solely for them. That is, saris were used by brides and so were jewelry. They hardly presented a gold ring to groom's home for the groom. There was no exchange of cash, vehicle, property, etc. as a part of dowry. I feel proud to be a part of such society now. Note, I'm anonymous here because my sister, to whom we gave a lot of dowry, is active on Quora. As section of IPC 498 criminalizes dowry, I don't want to risk anybody's life by providing witnesses to a crime and spoil their happy lives they are living today. I personally feel that those regions who still think dowry is part of their culture need to change a lot. I went to Japan for 3 months training in 2012. This was a Japanese language plus Japanese culture training along with some technical stuff. So I noticed following big changes. 1. Their teaching style is so good and convincing. They will try to teach every individual until one learns the thing deeply, that too by heart. In India, as I know, teachers are paid quite less. So people with good teaching aptitude don't consider it as a career option, and ultimately, it is the children who are affected. Appointed teachers in government-run or government-aided schools in India, most teachers don't concern oneself whether the students are learning or not. They will teach and consider their work is over thereafter. 2. Japanese people respect everyone, but they consider Indians as over top country people over world. They know very well the zero was invented in India, and they have shown this in some museums too there. They know that Indian scientists, software engineers, doctors etc. are exported throughout the world and all. 3. Japanese people don't argue much. They are taught in the schools to remain calm. They are taught from the very childhood to be down to earth. They are taught to clean the schools, maintain 5S and all from school itself. They are mostly given lessons about all this rather than exams and all. Up to some levels, there are no tests/exams. 4. Japanese people respect the older people very much. Even if the grade/rank of the older person is lower, the younger but senior grade person would be humbled by the old age. 5. Everyone is so polite. 2 of the most common phrases you'll hear in Japanese are sumimasen and gomenasai. They mean, excuse me, and I'm sorry, respectively, and can often be used interchangeably. 6. Always give way to the people in hurry. 7. Accuracy of train arrivals. If a timetable says a train will arrive at 7:14, it will arrive at 7:14 sharp. Trains in Japan will inform you if you are running late even by 30 seconds. A delay of 5 minutes is already a big deal for most passengers. 8. And don't expect anyone to speak English there. This isn't the biggest culture shock, but the most memorable. As many of you know, I was staying in a village in Kerala for 3 months. It was beautiful and the people were incredible and the food was the best I've had. But in the US, most of us have rice maybe once per week. While in Kerala, I was having it twice per day, thrice if you count idli, dosa, puttu, etc. that contain rice. I was going crazy. After 2 weeks, I broke down. I started crying, you know that I don't weep, just silently dripping, at the dinner table with 5th standard boys. They must have thought I was insane. I just couldn't take it anymore. It was so much rice and I needed variety. Samantha, miss. What happened? Was someone mean to you? No. I'm fine. Tell us, we will beat them. I love these kids so much. Finally they pulled it out of me. I was tired of rice. After dinner I'd usually walk around the rooms to make sure no one was fighting or breaking any rules. Just helping out the warden mostly. One of them opened a bag to reveal the biggest packet of Kerala mixture I've ever seen. Another had dark fantasy hidden. Another had some lays. We shut the door and had our mini feast. A couple of days later when I went into town I bought fresh for them to replenish what they had given. The next weekend some parents visited. One of these boys had told his mother and she brought me a plum cake. All the way from Trivandrum, 1.5-hour journey by car. She was absolutely the sweetest person that ever existed. All of us shared and I'll never forget that kindness. Was the rice the culture shock or the kindness? Your choice. Please note that I did grow to enjoy frequent rice lol, but I did buy them Domino's at my farewell. Japanese toilets. Well, what's all the hype about a toilet? As the airplane arrived in Narita Airport, customarily, for some reason, go to the toilets. I dislike using the plane's toilets when we're near landing. Big surprise. When I opened that cubicle, I nearly got disoriented. Random buttons in separate menu screens astounded me. I mashed all the buttons and I realized that there was a heater, a bidet water sprayer when you have to take a dump, and on some toilets, they open automatically when you come in. They even have an option to play music to help you concentrate when doing your stuff. I literally said, "Oh my God," in the cubicles, and pretty much everyone knew that I was a tourist, but you know what? Screw them. Let me enjoy my time with this gracious toilet. I was literally in front of the Lamborghini of toilets. Let me bask in all the glory. Edit. Forgot to mention that the music mainly masks the sound you make when relieving yourself or taking a dump. I lived in the Netherlands for a couple of years then, and my Dutch boss invited me to her wedding. There was a beautiful ceremony in a romantic castle, and after that we were served some tiny snacks and petit fours. After that we took a group picture and then the wedding manager announced that those who have a fork and a knife pictogram in their wedding invitation could proceed to the dinner hall and the rest can go home and thanks for coming. So there we were, hungry and stuck in the middle of nowhere. Until one of our colleagues called her husband to pick us up by car and bring to the nearest train station where we bought ourselves doner kebab. I still don't get it, why should someone treat their guests differently? If you can't afford a wedding dinner for everyone, it's perfectly okay with me. You can go for an intimate wedding with your family or close friends or just serve cake, I don't care. But not treating your guests equally completely blows my mind even 20 years later. Having lunch in the Netherlands. As a Singaporean, I recently moved to the Netherlands to further my studies. We had orientation the first week of school and lunch was served. Or more like disappointment was served that day. I was starving, but all we were served were bread, some cheese, and a glass of milk. This is what it looks like pretty much, and it's a typical Dutch lunch. Sometimes, they have salami or ham in it or hagelslag if they wanted something sweet. What I was used to was nasi padang or kai fan for lunch, essentially steamed rice with side dishes of your selection. Dutchies think I'm weird eating hot food 3 meals a day. They say I have dinner for all my meals. Well, I think they have breakfast twice a day. I would like to share my culture shock experience after I came to Germany from India in 2016. The incident is not exactly about me, but I witnessed this. So coming back to the answer, it was my second day in Germany and I had to travel to university for completing some paperwork formalities. I chose to travel by local public transport bus. It was peak hour times so bus is fully occupied by passengers. I was standing in the bus and after 5 minutes bus stopped at one stop. Driver got off from his driving seat, stepped down from the bus and came to the middle door of the bus. The reason he came was to help a handicapped person to get in the bus by unfolding wheelchair ramp. All people were there, nobody made any noise nor any angry faces. I was stunned by looking at the scene that happened. Because in my country I have never seen such gesture by a bus driver to help a handicapped person and that too during peak hours in the crowded bus. The second cultural shock was just after 5 minutes, when I stepped down from the bus at my destination stop. I saw the same person crossing the 2-lane road on zebra crossing using his wheelchair. All the cars, more than 8 to 10, stopped on both sides of the road. There were no noise, no horn, nothing. After the person successfully crossed the road, vehicles went off. This moment really gave me goosebumps, that how can people behave so nicely and show such gesture and follow rules. Plastic surgery in Korea. I know it sounds quite normal as so many people now are doing it. It seems like not a big deal, but allow me to explain a little bit. What shocked me is how many Korean people obsess with changing very small parts of their looks. They can always point out something they dislike about their looks and usually it is something that wouldn't even be noticed by others. One of my co-workers decided that she wants her forehead to look a bit more round, so she spent over $5,000 to take some fat from her butt. She's skinny, but was the only place to take that fat, of course, to put on her forehead. I heard the liposuction was very painful. At first after the surgery her forehead looked swollen and after 2 months, it looked exactly like her original forehead. I mean, what's the point of going through that much pain and the money to get a change that is not noticeable? Another current coworker did a surgery to turn the corners of her mouth up a little bit so that she would look like she was smiling. I don't know, if you want to look like you're smiling, why don't you just smile all the time? It still shocks me every time I hear something like this. And most importantly, how can people always find some new parts that they don't like about themselves? It's almost like a skill. Why don't we use that skill to find what we love about ourselves? You're a sick cunt, mate. Apparently, that's a compliment in Australia. It's used to show your respect towards the person. The dude's awesome. What a sick cunt. Anyway, when I first arrived in Australia, barely out of my teens, I was told that every Thursday night was uni night, where university students would hang out, party, get drunk, whatever, you get the gist. A pub called The Knot was open near our residence hall on Thursdays. The first time I visited The Knot, I was introduced to the art of sculling beer. I had my fair share of experience with alcohol before, but I was never a fast drinker. So when this Australian dude, Jack, challenged me to a speed race to scull 1 pint of beer, I lost badly. Not keen to accept defeat permanently, I decided to train my beer-chugging skills. By using water. Yes, I began to practice speed drinking from my water bottle at home every day. I had 7 days before my next visit to the knot. Then the following Thursday night, I challenged Jack again. And I obliterated him. I literally poured the beer down my throat. Jack's eyes nearly popped out of its sockets as he watched me down my pint from the corner of his eyes while he still had a quarter left. When he finished his, he yelled, "Fucking hell, Shanks. You're a sick cunt, mate," and he high-fived me. This was the first time I heard the slang, but somehow I knew it was meant as a compliment. And truth be told, at that moment in time, in my half-drunken throes of ecstasy, I felt like the sickest cunt in the world. Disclaimer, hello reader. I had visited this country long back in 2016. Also, this answer was put up way before the COVID pandemic. Request you to please not be offended by my answer. Read it as of my pages of my personal diary. Please don't report or downvote my answer just because it is about a specific country. My intention is not to hurt or offend anyone but to share my experience with all you fellow readers out there. Love and peace. Here it goes. I went to China for an internship. Being an Indian, I was really excited to see their culture, food, traditions. I spent 2 months which have been really beautiful and memorable. 1. Indians are given a lot of attention there. We used to go to different places on weekends and Chinese people used to ask for a photograph together as if we were celebrities. And every photograph was followed by a wide smile and "xia xia, thank you." Edit, they don't get to see a lot of Indians in China. That might be the major reason for why we get such attention. 2. They find Indians really beautiful. I know how much Indians admire Chinese, Korean and Japanese beauty. Their skin, their slim physiques, beautiful hair, cute face, etc. But they at the same time find our features beautiful. Grass is always greener on the other side. 3. The original Chinese food is way tastier than what we eat as Chinese food in India. They have very subtle but beautiful flavors. Also, they don't waste any part of chicken or any animal. We were served chicken heads and claws. But once they know about your preferences, they respect them to the fullest. 4. People don't deck themselves up like crazy in Chinese weddings. Only the bride and the groom are dressed like celebrities. Also, the marriage typically happens in a temple where food and other things are prepared. It's a grand meal. 5. People working in international companies have special English names to make it easy for the non-Chinese people to pronounce them. Edit, we Indians also had shortened and easier names there so they could pronounce it easily. I was January. And my friend Pranali was Lee. 6. Parents encourage their kids to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend after an appropriate age and get married later on. You will see a lot of couples everywhere you go. Most of them are dressed alike and I found it super cute. Edit, I totally forgot to mention chopsticks. Chinese people don't eat with their hands. They basically don't like to dirty their hands while eating. So you can find them eating a big chicken drumstick or rice with chopsticks. We Indians used to watch them in awe. We tried learning to eat with chopsticks. But we ended up dropping our food all around and then picking up again and eating. But we never gave up on trying. On the last day, our HR arranged Indian food especially for us. Rotis, butter chicken, dal rice, etc. We Indians were wondering how would the Chinese eat rotis and gravy with chopsticks. But they pleasantly surprised us by eating Indian food with their hands and occasionally licking their fingers too. They loved the food. Especially the dal. We respected their traditions by using chopsticks and they respected ours by using hands. Those were the older times. Thanks for reading. We build our perceptions as per what we see around. I'm no one to glorify or defame anyone or any country. Peace. Eating up the banana leaf. My friend from MIT was going to Tamil Nadu with me. He was a complete American and didn't know Indian stuff. We went to one of the local restaurants and ordered a full set of meal. In Tamil Nadu, food is served on a banana leaf. So when we went there, he was perplexed but didn't ask me a question. When we had finished our meals, I told him to stay here and take care of our belongings while I go to the washroom, and then we swap. While I was not there, he started chewing the whole banana leaf. P.S. He never came to India after that. Saudi Arabia. There was not a single event when I didn't get cultural shock in Saudi Arabia. There were so many. Every other day I used to get to see something new when I came here. 1. Every woman has to wear the abaya, black robe. This was the first thing to welcome me in Saudi Arabia. Despite being non-Muslim, I was supposed to wear this every day. Women in Saudi Arabia can't go out in public without covering themselves with the abaya. 2. Gender segregation. In offices, banks, hospitals, universities, restaurants, everywhere there are separate sections for men and women. It makes it a bit easier for women as their work gets done quickly. Even in weddings, separate halls are booked for males and females. 3. Young boys drive, less than 18 years old. Although the legal age of driving in Saudi is 18 years, it is very common to see 9 to 10 years old boys driving cars. As driving is banned for females, they will be able to drive from June 2018, so parents allow boys to drive to help women in their families for going out. Most of the times it is overlooked by traffic police. 4th, the way food is served in weddings/gatherings. Eating with hands, without using a spoon, is common in India, but eating without using spoons and plates was a bit new for me. In parties, get-togethers, they prefer to eat together in groups. Food is served in a big plate, they make a circle around it and enjoy their food. 5. French fries and cold drink with every meal, French fries and chips for breakfast along with soft drink. I could never think of that. Whatever food you buy, with everything there will be French fries and soft drink. They like a lot of sugar in every sweet thing. If you order tea you have to ask for less sugar, otherwise you won't be able to finish that. 6. All shops, offices, and businesses do close for prayers. 5 times in a day all shops, offices would close during prayer hours. So, we have to plan accordingly while going shopping or doing any official work. That is why most of the people go out after the last prayer around 9 p.m. Malls and shops remain open till 2 a.m. 7. No movie theaters. So far, there are no movie theaters for entertainment. This year, the ban was lifted from movie theaters but none have opened yet. There are parks, malls and beautiful beaches for entertainment. 8. Sunday working day. Weekend off is on Friday and Saturday. I find it difficult to go to work on Sunday, not able to get over that Sunday feeling. Edit. Regarding point 4, I know food sharing is Indian tradition and it is present in all religions. We do eat from same plate as well. We do share food with our friends, relatives and close ones. Some Arabian-themed restaurants might be offering food same way as well. I got a chance to attend Saudi weddings thrice. Food was served in big plates to be shared with others. I shared food from same plate with strangers that was new to me. Not only in weddings, even at workplace gatherings and parties food is served like this. I never experienced that in India. A few readers asked me to explore India first. I would like to start with their place. Please invite me as I shall be planning my summer vacation soon. Edit. Regarding point 7, 2 movie theaters have been opened in Riyadh and 1 coming up in Jeddah. Thanks for edits, views, suggestions and comments. It was when I went to Iran. I was at a hotel and having breakfast. I poured some tea and the sugar was nowhere to be found. So I asked the waiter for it and was waiting for crushed sugar that I've been using my whole life. Instead, he came back with small cubes of sugar like these. So I took one and put it in my cup of tea and started stirring to dissolve it. But unfortunately, my tea got cold and the sugar cube was still intact. And that's when someone told me that I was supposed to keep the cube in my mouth and just sip my tea over it. I never got used to that and was never given crushed sugar for my tea even when I asked for it explicitly. I don't know if this is something that's specific to Iran, but I was shocked when I found out that sugar goes directly in your mouth and not in your tea. Loved the visit to Iran BTW, it's a great place. The first time I went to China on business, I casually strolled down Nanjing Road in Shanghai surrounded by sophistication and passerbys wearing Chanel and Prada. Suddenly, a woman carrying a baby, dressed top to bottom in brand clothing stopped, lifted the baby up in the air allowing her to defecate. I was so shocked that had to stop and looked at the scene in horror. The baby didn't wear a diaper under the onesie but rather had a deliberately made opening. Surely, I thought this to be the exception versus the rule until I saw it everywhere across China, moms allowing their children to go on the street and picking up their poops like we pick up after our pets. In China, it is socially acceptable for kids to urinate and poop anywhere on the streets. Sometimes, you just see a kid while walking, squat and go. Looks like a normal house, right? In the Netherlands it is simply inappropriate to look into the windows of other people's houses, that's why most of them don't have curtains. I didn't know that of course, and believe me, what I've seen in the living rooms of the Netherlands really proves that they rely on no one looking in. Another thing that struck me is that we had to wait a very long time when we were in the restaurant. For everything, until the waiter came, until the food came, and also until the bill came. About 2 hours, unthinkable by German standards. I am from J&K, and when I first came to Bangalore for my studies, the cultural difference was as huge as the distances between these two places. 1. More than half the people stay in flats and apartments rather than houses in colonies. 2. Coffee is copy, and instead of using teacups, small steel tumblers are used. 3. People are very busy as most of them work for 9 to 5 corporate jobs. You can see people going as flock of sheep to office. 4. No one is interested in anybody else's life. I don't even know who my neighbors are. It's just an awkward smile if we cross ways. This is completely opposite as compared to my place where neighbor aunties are CCTV. 5. There are high chances that your interactions are more with a computer than an actual human being. 6. Unmarried girls put sindoor on their forehead, which was very strange for me. 7. Idli dosa, which is a specialty back home, is way too common here. The day my mom prepares South Indian cuisine, it feels as if some festival is there and the level of excitement is high. Over the years, Bangalore has become my second home. I love the unpredictable weather, my filter coffee, delicious idlis, and this place. Food, what's being eaten and how it's being treated. I have lived in 3 countries so far, but I've been experiencing food from so many more. My diet has shifted dramatically from an all-American feasting experience to primarily home-cooked Indian sabzis and curries. And here's why. I decided to do a master's degree in a different country, mainly because the course I was interested in wasn't offered in any universities in America, energy finance, which I know is a strange subject to drive someone to pack up their entire life and move abroad, but sometimes things work out that way. I moved to Ireland, but little did I know I was really moving into a multicultural bubble on campus. The on-campus apartments were only available to international students, which meant that I was living with people from places I'd only dreamed of going to before. I didn't particularly get along with the people in my own apartment, but I was more than welcome into the apartment next door anytime I felt like wandering in. This apartment comprised an American, 2 Indian, an Indonesian, a Vietnamese, and a Chinese student. The apartment smelled amazing all the time. There was always rice in the rice cooker, a pot on the stove with something delicious inside, and the fridges were stocked with all sorts of meats, sauces, cheeses, vegetables, you name it, and it was probably in that apartment at some point in time. I had no skills at cooking. I was lucky if I had enough ingredients to make a sandwich. See, I come from America, the land of fast food and takeout. I grew up in a fast-paced life where a home-cooked dinner usually was something that could be made in 30 minutes or less, and honestly, I wouldn't have wanted to grow up any differently. I loved my childhood, but I saw the effects as I got older. When I moved to Ireland, I was still in the mindset where portions have to be huge and usually covered in cheese and sauce. I started off the year usually grabbing something on the way to class and eating at horrible hours. In America, usually in your 20s, and especially when you're on your own, sitting down to a nice meal is not normal. Food isn't treated with respect, it's treated as either a necessity or an indulgence, which usually leads to a meal which consists over overly processed food which will most likely end up in an upset stomach later in the day. I was lucky to become friends with the Indians that lived in that flat though. Food was something special to them. It was how they were reminded of home each day. Yes, they went out and tried some Irish dishes, but I learned that there was a special place in their hearts for each dish they cooked and each dish they learned to cook. And there was a lot of learning. They told me how they would have certain dishes at certain times. How pakoras were eaten as a treat when it rained and chole bhature was a special Sunday lunch. How dal is a staple in every house in India but it differs by region. How chicken is a special treat for those who eat non-veg, but how paneer is just as good of an option. I was invited over constantly to try new food just because they wanted to share their culture with me. They loved trying to cook new dishes and they loved sharing it with new people. They made restaurant-style dishes like dal makhni and butter chicken and home-style dishes like baigan barda and aloo mutter, and let me tell you, they were all delicious to me. I tried simple dishes like dal, aloo gobi and poha and then specialties like biryani, chole and kadai paneer. After a while, I considered these guys my family away from home. I was eating home-cooked meals every night and I was treating food as an occasion rather than a necessity. And I felt the effects. I stopped eating red meats and, most, processed foods. I paid attention to what I was eating and how it made me feel. Luckily for me, I was used to spicy food since I grew up in Buffalo, New York, home of buffalo chicken wings, so the heat which radiated from some of the curries was delicious rather than burning. I started losing weight and feeling better. I didn't get ill as often and I felt more refreshed each day. Food makes such a difference and how people treat meals around the world should be recognized. Once a meal is considered an occasion, it's much more special and it feels like an experience each day. I've now lived with these guys for about 3 years and I probably eat an Indian dish at least once a day. Tonight on the menu is aloo baigan, which I'm proud to say I can actually cook myself now with no help. It's been quite the shift in how I grew up with food, and it was a bit of a shock trying to get used to it, but I don't think I could ever go back to fast-processed food. Edit 1. I wanted to highlight that my comments of quick American meals were based on my own experiences of growing up there. My parents would be running my brother and I between school, sports practices and music lessons, so during the week it was hard to find the time to cook a full-out meal. When we did get the chance to have home-cooked family meals, they were mainly saved for the weekends or family get-togethers. The best thing about America is it's a land of mixed cultures and I know there are many families in the country that sit down to home-cooked meals every night with home-cooked recipes passed down from generations. By no means did I want to convey that my own experience was the same across all American families. There are plenty of opportunities in America to be healthy with their cooking, and I'm sure many families are doing that. Edit 2. There was some requests for more pictures, so I've added a few more. Edit 3. I realized I never clarified that my neighbors were both male. Also, I'm using past tense because they are no longer actually my neighbors, but rather my roommates now. When we finished our respective master's degrees we found a flat off campus. These guys became my family while being here and now we get to cook in a home of our own every night.
Please leave your story in the comments, I would love to make a video on them in the future also. Don't forget to like and subscribe to you never miss a video.